So into the charts we go. We can see Bitcoin with a monster surge today. Yesterday we had a big bounce as well. This is all coming off of the low that was put in basically last Friday. And again, really remarkable bounce in cryptocurrencies. Obviously, it was awesome for us as we took a bunch of profits. And again, folks, that is the essence of swing trading. To buy that dip, be able to capture the technical levels. We went into it with some shorts, obviously, and just making money on both sides of the market. So closing out Cardano for over 10%, Near for over 11%, Avalanche for 14 plus percent, Matic for 13, Solana for 13%. And again, before that, we had our shorts on Ethereum, Solana, Avalanche, Matic, and so forth. So again, I mean, it's crazy because we're trading the same things. We're just going long and then short and then long and then short. Now, again, that's all made possible by the volatility. And what you'll notice is that in this service, you can see there's going to be periods where there's very little action, and we have to sit on the sidelines, because if you try to trade when there's little action, you'll get literally eaten alive by the algorithms, by the whippiness. You'll end up just watching and being sucked into things and ultimately losing money. All right, so again, pounce when the time is right. That is the biggest lesson to remember. That takes a lot of discipline, but discipline is what makes a good trader. Okay. So what we see here on the chart of Bitcoin is an amazing rally to the upside. I'm actually looking to re-short Bitcoin at the yellow line if it hits the next 12 hours or so. So if we get another move up into tomorrow, maybe even by midday tomorrow, I'll be looking to short that. Now, if it doesn't hit and we start to consolidate, then we're going to look for one more push up, maybe to this upper level here, which will be right around like 27,000. See the channel? That'll be your next resistance. So again, isn't it amazing how, and this, guys, this is just why it's so freaking awesome, is that we went from discussing support levels, right? Bear flag, support, bear flag, breakdown, support, go long a bunch of crypto, rally back up, and look at how it sliced through these resistance levels, and now we're talking about resistance levels of where we're going to short the trades. And so ultimately, first one's going to be that 25 and change level, 25,000 and change. Your next level is going to be your upsloping channel. That'll be, again, around 27 or so thousand. And then if we continue up outside of that, then you're going to start talking about the 30. Actually, there's some resistance at 28,000 as well. But then eventually that 30,000 level. Okay? All right, so that's your Bitcoin update in terms of technical levels. Just to summarize what's going on, guys, you're still seeing bank stocks getting crushed, mainly the regionals, right? So again, one of the charts I'll show you, PACW, which is Pac West Bancorp. Look at that drop on that. And again, these are, it's not like these are tiny companies. They're not mega caps like a JP Morgan, but again, that is a nasty, nasty rollover. 3-bar surge, which actually you should get a bounce, but you got to be careful with these because we've now had multiple banks basically be halted and basically be taken over by the government, which means investors will lose basically 100% of their money in the stock side. The deposits are being insured even if it's more than 250,000. Again, we know that FDIC insurance covers 250, but the government has now come out and said that they will cover even more than that, all the way up to whatever number it is, which is good. That's step one in a stabilizing process for the banking sector. The one thing I'd like to point out is that this bank collapse, this bank run and collapse following was brought to you by no other than the Federal Reserve. All right. Again, when you call inflation transitory and don't raise rates quick enough early on, or at least starting earlier, because if they started earlier, they could have done it slower, and that's the key. Instead, they thought it was transitory. Then they waited, and when they found out it wasn't transitory, they reacted by jacking rates up so quickly that essentially you have this stuff on the balance sheets of these banks that's paying, pennies on the dollar in terms of interest, and it's just not a good situation. And again, we obviously saw people taking their money and running. Again, like I said, will PacWest survive? I honestly have no clue. We'll have to wait and see. I do think that the government will be very careful not to let too many of these banks fail, because ultimately then what do you get? And this is, by the way, talk about unintended consequences, and it just, honestly, it pisses me off. It pisses me off because, you know what's going to end up happening, guys? And I was had CNBC on this morning. And basically, they had some of these guys that had money, some of these companies that had money with Silicon Valley Bank, and you know what they said? They said, "Oh yeah, great, we have our money. Guess, we're gonna now open a bank account at Chase." So what is this gonna do? It's gonna push all the money now to the big banks. And you're going to basically get even more of a monopolistic scenario where the smaller banks eventually kind of probably either get bought up if they haven't gone out of business, and the big banks just rule. And again, it's ridiculous because, again, the whole idea is to have a well-diversified system without these kind of monopolies out there. And essentially what the Fed now did is pushing people that have money at these regional banks to be like, oh, well, I can't take that risk anymore, so let me move it over to one of the big four, let's say, or big five. You have Bank of America, Citigroup, Chase, and, Wells Fargo, maybe a few of these other ones out there. All right, anyways, just my 2 cents on that, but to me, it's very, very much ridiculous. All right, let's go back to the crypto charts here. Sorry for that tangent. Look at this pop on Ethereum. Ethereum, again, remember we covered Ethereum down here in the high 1300s? And look at where it is now. Back to 60 and change. Would I short it again up here at this yellow line? Yes, I would. Basically, anything above 1700, I'm going to pull the trigger on a short on Ethereum. So be ready for that. So as long as we get this volatility, there's going to be lots of trades. If things quiet down, then there's fewer trades. That's just the nature of the beast, right? Let's go to some of the other big ones we've been trading lately. Let's take a look at Solana. Solana right into a little bit of resistance here. Notice a very small bounce on Solana today. That's fine. No, there's no level here that I would short Solana at. Only if it surged all the way up here, then I would consider it at this point. So Solana doesn't really look like it has a good chart for me to short. Avalanche, nice bounce. Again, it's only into this level here, which again, it's resistance, but it's not big enough a bounce for me to short it. So pass on that one. No, not even close to any level. Let's take a look at Matic. Matic again, slightly higher here. Had a great bounce the last couple days. For me to short Matic, would have to at least get up to $1.30, maybe even a little bit more. I'll have to continue to watch that. But yeah, I mean, it would have to go up quite a bit more. So interestingly enough, the ones that I'm seeing that are closest to shorts are actually the two biggest, right? The Bitcoin and Ethereum charts. These alts, I'm not really loving. They're not extended enough like we've seen Ethereum and Bitcoin. Now, one of the interesting things to take note of is that you definitely could argue that money is partially, so we're having a big move on Ethereum and Bitcoin today, right? And you could make a case that money is leaving the banking sector and going into crypto. And again, do I think that all of a sudden crypto's become a gold type play where people rush into gold? And by the way, take a look at gold today. Look at this move the last couple days in gold, guys. And you guys know I've called for gold to be the best performing asset by far, over outpacing the S&P and Bitcoin by year end. Obviously, it's not outpacing Bitcoin yet, but it is outpacing the S&P now for this year. And I certainly do think that it will eventually outpace the Bitcoin chart. All right, anyways, amazing move on gold the last couple days. By the way, the big resistance is going to be, see this channel? Look at this channel. So that's going to be your resistance around 1950, 1955 on the gold chart. All right, going back to Polkadot real quick here. Let's just see what we got on Polkadot. Nice little bounce on Polkadot here. Again, coming into some resistance. Same thing, though. To me, this is not a big enough area of resistance in here to short this because it just is not extended enough. So for me, I've got to be patient. I got to kind of sit back. By the way, awesome that I'm still holding the Bitcoin long, too, because with this bounce, it potentially gives us another opportunity. If we get back to 25 plus, maybe I actually get filled this time if it pushes through 25. And again, I might even probably raise my exit now, because if it goes up there, you'll see a pierce of those previous highs by maybe even 500 to $1,000. But yeah, just very cool how we had the shorts and made those, then the longs, but still now holding a core position in Bitcoin in the service here. All right, so aside from that, folks, I don't really see a whole lot else. Let me just take a look at a few other cryptos that we can go through. But again, the biggest bounces where we're getting closest back to the highs, obviously Bitcoin and Ethereum. Those are very, very impressive moves from the lows from just a few days ago. Let's take a look at Ripple real quick. Yeah, Ripple basically no bounce there. Again, that I think you could argue is waiting for the the decision from the judge. Take a look at chainlink real quick. Chainlink, decent little bounce, but again, not even close to a shortable level. All right, to summarize, definitely a run on the banks. There's no doubt about it, but I think that's kind of subsiding as the government at least guaranteed deposits even above 215,000, so you don't have to worry about losing money if you have over 250 in an account. The bigger thing now in the future for these banks is going to be what new regulation comes in. Again, assuming these banks survive, there's actually a lot of opportunity to the upside, in my opinion, because they essentially have been beaten down so badly. But again, the question is which ones survive? Will the government let any more go out of business, or did they make their point by letting I think 2 or 3 go under at this stage? Essentially, remember, interest rates, when you go from interest rates of 0 to 5%, think about the hundreds of percentage points the move that is in interest rates. It's going to cause breakages in the system. And again, it honestly should be very concerning to us all that the Federal Reserve didn't foresee this happening and didn't kind of, make sure that these banks align themselves a little bit better. But that's the nature of the beast. And basically, third biggest bank failed. Third and fourth biggest bank failed. Not the biggest banks overall, but since I think it was Lehman Brothers or back to Bear Stearns. Actually, I think it was Bear Stearns. And that's pretty crazy. I mean, that is, pretty wild to think about that, those were the biggest banks since then to fail. And they are big. I mean, we're talking about multi-billion-dollar companies or banks. All right, guys. Awesome job on the profits. I am back from vacation. Not sure if I'd call myself well-rested, though, considering how much action there was. It basically turned into a working vacation. But you know what? Like I always say to you guys, that's the trader's life, right? A trader's life, you can go on vacation at any time because you're trading for yourself, but you have to be ready to trade the markets when the market gives you great opportunities. And we turned it into a great opportunity and great profits. Have a great one, guys. Take care.